Right, now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going. Close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Oh, welcome back to the Pick and Go podcast, your one-stop shop for all things rugby union. And I'm all alone today in the studio, as it was. Pity still plying his trade across the Pacific Ocean in Japan as we speak. So I'm sure we'll hear a few stories when he gets back, I believe, next week for the NPC semi-finals. So, yeah, we'll see what he comes up with his big trip to Japan. All I've seen so far is him eating a whole lot of hibachi stuff, which doesn't look too bad, to be fair. You just may have heard the one person I do have this weekend will head up to North Harbour. There's no way he was going to miss out on this Pick and Go, not after the what happened on the weekend. Ben Searle of Surly Talk Sports. Surly, how are you, mate?
Yeah, mate, good. Obviously, Steve couldn't face the music today. He'd been preaching that Harbour were going to go winless. Well, the boys got the job done, so I'm here to gloat about it. And obviously, no one wants to hear about how convincing that win was against Southland on Friday night.
We will get to a little review of what happened in the NPC a little bit later on. But let's have a look at the punting first. And there's not a lot of good news there, to be fair. Let's just have a little bo peep. Steve had 3 bets. He did have one win in there. He had Bay of Plenty to win by 13 or more into Hawke's Bay to win. I don't think Bay of Plenty won by 13 or more. So I'm pretty sure I marked that down as a loss. Did I get that right? Jeez, I hope I did.
No.
Where are we?
They won, no.
Yeah, that's right.
33-26 against Wallabies.
33-26, that's right. Yep. So no good there for Steve. His second bet, though, Counties to win at $3. He had $25 on that. That was a tick. And then he had Argentina to win by 1-12. And boy, they went close. Unfortunately, no dice there. So he was only down $25 for the week, which is pretty good for Steve. He's now down $925 for the season. We move along. Surly had 2 bets. North Harbour to win into Northland to win. Oh, who would have thought it would be the Taniwha that let him down? So no good there. And his other one was either team to win by under 7.5 in the Wallabies All Blacks test match in Perth. No good there either. So Surly was down $100 for the week and only down $188.27 for the season. I had a couple of bets. I had Argentina plus 13.5 in their test against the Springboks into the Wallabies plus 5.5. No good there. And then I had Hawke's Bay to win, Canterbury to win, and Southland to win. I should have just taken Southland plus the points. No good. Down 100 for the week, up $761.58 for the season. Surly, let's leave the betting there for now, and I'll throw a question to you, and it's around the Rugby Championship. That's all done and dusted now. Of course, the Springboks are back-to-back Rugby Championship winners on, what do we say, points differential. Doesn't matter how you win it, as long as you win it. But let's go through the 4 teams and just give a grade for each team. So why don't we start with Los Pumas, who finished at the bottom of the table, but their season wasn't all doom and gloom. And in fact, they showed that they are right up there with the other 3 teams in the championship. They picked up a win against the All Blacks, picked up a win against the Wallabies, and they went close to getting a win against the Springboks as well. So it was a tight competition. So I don't think we can be too harsh on them.
No, apart from that 67-30 outlier, which we spoke on last week, I don't think that was a fair reflection of the game in totality. Like, Argentina were right in that until the last 20 odd minutes. So I would say if you showed them the results without that game in the mix pre-tournament, I think they would have taken that for sure. I think if they'd pulled off the win on the weekend, then that would drastically change their rating. But it's still 2 wins from the 6 games. You do have to factor that in, but you can't be too harsh. Like you said, winning on the road against the Wallabies was huge for them. Beating the All Blacks at home was massive as well. And apart from that one game, they never really got put to the sword. They were competitive, and you can tell they're making big improvements. So I had them as a C plus. It seems harsh. I think if they'd won that last game, then that jumps up massively. But it was just that 67-30 one, which makes it a little bit tough, and the 4 losses from the 6 games. Like win percentage wise, it's not great, but I think performance wise, they were pretty good. What did you have them at? Is a C plus too harsh?
No, that's exactly what I had, a C plus. I was really impressed with their overall performance through the tournament as a whole. Obviously, that outlier was concerning, but I thought not just the fact that they picked up a couple of wins, but the fact that the style of rugby that they played, and they really are starting to become a wee bit more expansive. They're starting to use those big, quick backs that they have out wide. Their forward pack has always been a tough proposition, whether at home or away. So I was really, really buoyed by, I guess, the fact that, first of all, they beat the All Blacks. They beat the Wallabies in Australia as well, and went, well, but for a mispick, we don't know. Anything could have happened in that final game at Twickenham. So, yeah, it was. I thought it was a C plus, and like you say, if they had picked up that win at Twickenham, then that C plus for mine becomes either a B or a B plus, because that would have had them right, and they would have done an All Blacks a favour. In fact, I might have given them a bit more, doing the All Blacks a bit of a favour. But no, it bodes well for the future of this competition, first of all, and also for their chances in the next World Cup. They're a fair dinkum world power now, Argentina, when it comes to world rugby. So yeah, C plus, and I guess they might look back and think, gee, we could have done, the bounce of the ball this way, or we get a penalty here. They could have done a wee bit better. But no, I thought it was a good season in terms of the Rugby Championship for Argentina. Right, let's go to the Wallabies now, who finished in 3rd place in the Rugby Championship. Where do you place them?
See, they started with a hiss and a roar, so getting a win in South Africa to kick things off really did make this tournament incredibly exciting. They had a couple last-minute wins that they had some comebacks there at home against Argentina. They, of course, dropped one, but that second one, that one that they won, didn't look like they were going to win that game until near the end. I have them as a C plus as well. 2 wins from 6 games again, so you have to factor that in. But I think their biggest problem was this whole eligibility. Like, I think if they had Skelton and Valentini there the whole time, I think if they'd settled on a halfback, they had a lot of injuries throughout the competition, not just at halfback, but that was a real problem position for them. That and first 5. Like, do we know who's their first 5 at the moment? Probably not. So yeah, I gave them a C plus, but again showed signs of real improvement, and they are going to be a force come the next World Cup 100%. But I still think when you factor in the tournament as a whole, look, they would have been disappointed to lose those back-to-back games to the All Blacks, because I think they would have smelt blood in the water and really wanted to get one of those. In particular, that game in Perth last weekend, and I thought for 60-odd minutes they didn't really look like winning that game.
Yeah, I gave them a C minus, and I'm not sure if Joe Schmidt is playing around with it. Like you say, we're not really sure who their number 1 halfback is, who their number 1 first 5/8 is, and perhaps he's just trying a few things because he doesn't know himself, or he may have an idea, but there are so many. There's no like standouts in those 2 positions. I also agree with the fact that Will Skelton and Rob Valentini are huge members of that squad, and they lose a whole heap of go forward when those two boys aren't in the game. And I think we saw that in the first part of that test match in Perth where Will Skelton was, and then he had to go off with that, was it an HIA, I think, and we didn't see him again. They just lost a whole heap of momentum with him gone. So he's a big, big part of that team, and they're still working on their combinations. It'll be very, very interesting to see how they go when Nawangani comes back into calculations. His combination with Suali'i, how well will that go? Obviously, they'll want the inside back sorted out so that they can get quality ball out to the strike weapons that they have. And so I sort of think that maybe Smith was just playing around with a few combinations just to see. Obviously, there were injuries as well, but playing around with a few combinations to see just who's the best fit sort of thing. Because I think you can sort of lock in Ikitau at second, Swali'i, and then I guess they'll have Nawangani on one wing when he does come back, and Tom Wright at the back. They've got the basis of a very, very good team, and they picked up some good wins during the season. It was just, I just thought just a C for mine, C minus. Yeah, probably a C minus for mine.
It'll be interesting too. Noah Lolosio, he's probably their best 10, right? And he wasn't available for this tournament. But then you've also got to factor in that there's going to be a coaching transition here, and Les Kiss is going to take over this team. And, it's good problems for them, but there's still quite a bit of the unknown. So the fact that they're getting these wins and getting some confidence back in Australian rugby from their fans' point of view is great, but there's still a fair bit of the dynamic to work out there. There's a lot of water to go under the bridge before the next World Cup. So it's exciting, but it's also a bit of the unknown at the same time.
Righty-ho, we move on to the All Blacks now, who finished second on points differential in the Rugby Championship. I guess they did everything they had to in the final test match in Perth to then put it on the Springboks to either to win. But in terms of the overall Rugby Championship for the All Blacks, what grade?
I gave them a B minus. I think they won the one game that I really wanted them to win the most, and that was their best performance of the year. 4 wins from the 6, so you take that. For me, the 2 losses were disappointing, though, to lose to Argentina over there, and then, of course, the record loss. You can't gloss over that. I will say the back-to-back wins to finish made me feel a little bit better about things, and I think we answered a fair few questions in those games as well. I think we've got our back 3 now, or at least we've got Caleb and Lester fighting for a spot there, and then the other 2 positions are sorted, and Leroy Carter and Will Jordan. I think we have potential there to unlock an exciting midfield off the back of that last game as well. Roygar back just changes things completely. But, yeah, it's hard to gloss over those 2 losses. The South Africa win at Eden Park makes a good campaign for me, or a decent campaign. So it's a B minus, but again, probably not playing 100% where we want to be. We're about 75% there at the moment. So that's reflected in my score, I reckon. What did you reckon?
Yeah, I went C plus for the All Blacks, and it would have been a wee bit better, but for that massive loss in Wellington against the Springboks, that really does stick in the mind. A super win at Eden Park. In fact, you could just say Eden Park, and we know that the All Blacks have won because they just do not lose there. What is it, 52 in a row now? But gee, the Springboks really, really did look good in that test match in Wellington. I did like the way the All Blacks finished the season. It was great to see Quinton Tupaia back to his best. I really enjoyed the way he played in that Perth test match. But overall for the season, yeah, I'll give them a C+. And I'm probably being a wee bit harsh because they were only points differential away from actually winning the Rugby Championship. So once again, it was that result in Wellington coupled with the Springbok big win against Argentina the week prior to the weekend just gone. That was the difference in the All Blacks winning or finishing runner-up in the Rugby Championship. So yes, I've got them C+. It might be slightly harsh, though, but I guess Kiwis can be slightly when the All Blacks don't win something, they can like really pick apart and look for every sort of small thing that maybe didn't go right. So I can understand why you're a B-, but for mine, C+ for the All Blacks in the Rugby Championship. Let's go to the winners now, the Springboks. What grade, Sealy?
I've got a B for them. I thought when they looked good, they looked really good. And when they missed the mark, they would have been pretty disappointed. I think their wins were convincing. Their losses, they kind of went away from that South Africa team that they've been for so long. And at times, they'd be disappointed with their set piece, with their error rate. Even the first half on the weekend, they made so many unforced errors that would have been really frustrating for them. So obviously the Cape Tin win stands out massively. That first loss at home against the Wallabies, I think that would have really frustrated them. And then to not be able to come over to Eden Park and get the win would be a bit of a rock under the towel for Russie and his coaching crew. So I've got them as a B. I think in Sasha at 10, they've unlocked some exciting backs as well, and they're playing a different brand of football too. But I think there's still a lot of room for improvement for the Boks, which as South African fans, I'm sure that gets them very excited. They're a beast. They're a juggernaut. And when they play at that 9 out of 10 plus, they're the best team in the world for sure. But there's still a few parts of this new style of game they want to play that they need to iron out. So a B might be a little harsh, but I think it's based off potential as to where they could get to.
Yeah. I had the Springboks graded as an A-. They're back-to-back Rugby Championship winners. They're World Cup champions right now. And if we have a look at how they went about it, remember, Rassie is never afraid to make wholesale changes. And that can upset the rhythm of a team and the momentum that it can sometimes just stop momentum that they've built up. He obviously is looking at a bigger picture, and the fact that he was still able to win the Rugby Championship, I think, just shows he's a canny man, that Rassie Erasmus, and he likes to think outside the box. As you said, they've uncovered a whole new sort of wave of players. They've got a whole heap of depth there now, and they are looking very, very strong. They are the best team in the world. They're the world champions. They're the Rugby Championship holders as well. And I just like the way that they're able to change their game if they have to. We saw Malcolm Marx back to his best on the weekend at Twickenham. But they have some very, very exciting backs, some younger players as well coming through. And, of course, still got a bomb squad if they want one, which it really is scary for the rest of the rugby world. They look so, so good. So an A- for mine, just on the back of a couple of those losses that were, as you pointed out, the Wallabies winning in South Africa. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a very, very good performance by the Springboks in the Rugby Championship. Right, let's get into a wee bit more depth in terms of the Wallabies All Black Test match in Perth. And I guess if we have a look at it, Surly, the scoreline suggests it was fairly comfortable. I'm not so sure if you watched the test that it was that comfortable in the end. There were a few key moments in that game that sort of turned things the way of the All Blacks.
Yeah, I thought the Wallabies started really well, and obviously that was a true test match at the start there. It was tough, points were hard to come by, and a couple opportunistic moments that we turned into points probably turned that game. Obviously, Jordie Barrett's hungy probably right up there in terms of rolling the dice and a bit of luck. At the same time, when you look at it, 4 tries to 1, I think the score could have been a little more if D-Mac hadn't had an uncharacteristic night off the boot. I thought our defence was really good too. And I think we saw enough on attack to say that we have made improvements in terms of the way we want to play throughout this Rugby Championship. Because I thought we moved the ball pretty well and we were getting game line. We play a flat style at the moment. And we don't use a lot of depth, which is a bit worrying coming up against teams that will rush us on defence. But I thought at times we looked really good. I still think we're at about 70% of our potential there.
You mentioned Jordie Barrett, and that header that he did, Chris would have been proud of playing for the All Whites. That was one of the key moments in the game where fantastic. I'm not sure if he was doing it on purpose or if he was just falling into it. Look, if he says that was fair dinkum, I'm happy to go with that. But it was just a piece of luck, and then Quinton Tupaia was there in support, and bang, we get a try out of it. Just before that, or a few minutes before that, I think it was Ala Alator who went over for a try, and then that got called back, not just for a penalty, but for a yellow card. That's a huge, huge sort of, you're thinking you're about to go grab another 7 points, and then all of a sudden you're brought back, those 7 points are gone, and you've got a player in the bin as well. And 100%, I think the referee or the officials got this right, because we've seen when you come in like that. In fact, I think it was Quinton Tupaia who actually had it done to him by
Darcy
Swain, I think. So, geez, he would have had some, I guess, well, I watched it and I thought, oh, I'm just so happy that there wasn't a serious injury that came out of it. But that was, once again, another big turning point in that game.
Yeah, it was a 14-point swing, really, wasn't it? Because you could have been staring down the barrel of 7 points for the Wallabies, but it results in 7 points for us. And as soon as I saw that clean out, I thought of the Darcy Swain collision as well. Obviously, it wasn't as bad, but you still need to stamp stuff like that out of the game because it has massive potential for injury. And as Quinn has experienced himself, if you do an ACL or something like that, like you're looking to come back for the next World Cup right on time, basically, for that. So it can change someone's career completely. So yeah, I think it was a card. It was warranted for sure, but that's a crucial moment. Well done to Quinton Tupaia as well for playing to the whistle on that Geordie Barrett one. Because I don't know about you, but sitting on the couch at home, I just thought, oh, good on him, but that's going to be brought back, and it would be so easy. Yeah, it would be so easy not to chase that, right, and finish things off. But he did the right thing. He played it out, and he scored the try, and he got rewarded for it. So I think a lot of people would have just pulled up and been like, knock on there, I'm not going to bother, save the energy. But he did what you're meant to do, played to the whistle, finished it off, and got rewarded.
It's a great example, I think, for up-and-coming players is you play to the whistle, chase, until you hear the referee's whistle go. Because you may have had a poor angle. You didn't actually see what actually happened, and it could be play on. So, yeah, well done to Quinton Tupaia. Of course, he picked up a couple of tries, thoroughly deserved them as well. Boy, he looks so strong. And obviously, after that injury, it took him a long time to come back, but he looks fizzing right now.
Yeah, he's powerful, isn't he? And he always beats the first defender. He almost played like a second five type of role, which was pleasing because I think Geordie's skill set hasn't been fully utilised over the last few years. We've tried to use him a bit as a battering ram, haven't we? As well as him doing the other things. Whereas if we can use someone like a Quinn who runs so hard at gain line, he's powerful, he's explosive. Like that Leroy Carter try, the first one, that was off the back of Quinn's strong carry. So he set one up, he scored two himself, and I was really surprised at his speed, at his turn of pace. That's what I was most worried about with him at centre. It's such a tough position defensively. Everyone always tries to take your outside, and if you're not quite quick enough, then you can get gas. Winger has to jam in and compensate for that. But I was surprised at how quick Quinn is. So, yeah, I'm not sure if the All Blacks heading into this game thought that was a genuine possibility that Quinn could become the starting 13, but it's certainly something they have to consider now because he was best on paddock almost, right? And now a lot of people, I think it would be very harsh if we go to Chicago against Ireland and he's not in the 13 jersey. I think people will ask questions and say, what did he do to deserve to not wear it? So it's almost his to lose now. So that could be a bit of a spanner in the works for Razor. I'm sure they're stoked about it. It's a great problem to have, but I thought Quinn put in a complete performance and it was really pleasing to watch because I felt so sorry for him over the last 2 years. He's a great footballer, but that injury really did rob him of opportunities. He had a great Super Rugby for the Chiefs and now he's carrying it over. He made the most of that opportunity.
He certainly did, and I agree with you. He's put his hand up and said, "Look, I'm good to go in the 13 jersey." And when you have all that sort of time off, first of all, you got to rehab, and physically get back into the game, but mentally it must play with your mind as well. Not being able to get out on the field and do the thing that you love to do. So it was wonderful to see him back, and it will be interesting to see which way Razor goes when we do get to that Chicago Test match at Soldier Field against the Irish. It's a good problem for Razor to have, though, Surly. It's always good to, like, who do I leave out as opposed to who do I put in? It will be very, very interesting, first of all, to see the squad that he selects for that sort of Northern tour, and then I guess who actually starts in the 1 to 15 jerseys come Chicago. So, yeah, great thing to have. Let's have a quick look at the other test match because it was a humdinger. Argentina got off to a quick start, scored a try out wide. They were looking very, very good, picking up a few points with penalties. And then, as the Springboks can do, they start grinding away. Couple of tries to Malcolm Marks. He's a very hard man to stop short of the line. And then, of course, their halfback as well, Kobus Reinach, who was very, very good behind a pack that can make the game slightly easier. Your thoughts on that test match?
Yeah, like you said, I thought Argentina dominated the first 35-odd minutes. I thought South Africa made a lot of uncharacteristic errors that were kind of unforced as well. But then, like good teams do, they scored right before halftime. And then that yellow card in the second half where South Africa piled on 2 tries. They scored a third shortly after Argentina got back to 15 players. But I think that was the real turning point of the game, and that's where South Africa took it away from them. I thought scrum time, they were so dominant as well. And like you said, that must be a halfback's dream to play behind that forward pack. No disrespect to the All Blacks forward pack, but I'd love to see Cam Roygaard behind that pack, man, because he is already one of the best players in the world, and he would have a great ride behind that monster pack. But yeah, it was just a typical South Africa performance, really, wasn't it? When things aren't going their way, they don't really panic. They find ways to grind teams out and still get the result, even if they're not at 100%. So that's probably the most pleasing thing for them. They went back to what they know best. There was a lot of kicking. Argentina did quite well in the aerial game too, which I was surprised at. A couple nice chip kicks and things like that. But yeah, it was an entertaining watch. I think Argentina bounced back massively from the week before, but the Boks just too good in the end. I think it was that yellow card period, though, that got them home.
Yeah, once again, there are a couple of turning points in that game. Late in the game, Argentina had a shot at goal from a handy position. It was in front. It was, about 40 metres out, I think it was. Usually, they'd throw that over. And then they're within the 7-point margin. That didn't happen. They do score a try after 80 minutes is up and make the score a wee bit closer. But there were a couple of points in that game where I guess if it's the Springboks who have that opportunity, they will 99 times out of 100, they will take that opportunity and make you pay. Los Pumas, just, I guess, they're not quite at the same level as the Springboks right now, but they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I think if you look back at almost all, bar that one blowout loss, there's moments like that in all of their losses, right? Even against Australia, when Aussie pulled off that comeback, there were opportunities there for Argentina to shut that game out, and they just couldn't quite do it. So I guess that's the final piece for them to get from this C+ team that we've graded them to a B+ or an A-, and that's what they'll have to iron out before World Cup, is just winning those last few moments. They've made massive progressions in their game, but they've still got that little bit to go to put the icing on the cake and shut out these big teams, because they'll beat a lot of lesser nations playing the way they're playing at the moment, and they'll make quarterfinals and they'll probably make semifinals, but it's whether they make it and be competitive and a genuine shot to win and kick on from there, or whether they go out in a semi. And it's those last 15 minutes, the championship minutes, that win you those games, and they're just missing that final little piece in these close losses just to shut it out.
Right. I'm just looking at the time and I realise that we've been sort of rolling on here for quite a while. So we were going to grade the teams in the NPC that didn't make the playoffs. I think we'll leave that, Shirley, and we'll do every single team in the NPC after the final. So we'll hold on to that, and we'll probably have either Jeff or Steve and Pity here as well to give us their grades as well. So we'll hold on to those for now, and we'll do a grade for every single team in the NPC after the grand final has been played. So we can move on to just having a look back at round 10, the final round of the regular season in the NPC right now. And I know there's a game that you really, really want to have a chat about. And obviously, it's the Taniwha up against Waikato. Oh, no, sorry. It's North Harbour up against Southland, and I was so happy. Outside of my punting, I was so happy to see North Harbour finally get a win for the season. Look, they deserved it. They're a very, very young team. I hope they've got a few more players coming into sort of contention next season, because they're losing a whole lot of experience after this season. James Layer has retired. Lovely to see him go out with a win. Talia is off to Japan. Yeah. There's a whole heap of experience that's gone. But if we look back at that game there, once again, Southland had an opportunity late in the game, a sort of a poor line-out throw for North Harbour. Southland get the ball, and I'm thinking, oh, no, what's going to happen is they're going to commit a penalty or offence or something, and then give a penalty shot at goal to the Stags. That didn't happen. So they come out in a very, very close game, 15-40. But I thought North Harbour really, really gave the ball a wee bit of air. I thought some of the sweeping moves that they had from one end of the field to the other was just, if they had done that for bigger parts of the season, I think they would have picked up more than one win, Shirley.
Yeah, I can tell you that wasn't in the game plan. I think that was just the players out in the middle deciding that they were going to have a bit of fun at times. But that's Harbour rugby. Like, that's when we look our most dangerous. We have some outside backs, and we always have. You mentioned Mark Talia. Guys like Solidify Maka, he's New Zealand Sevens. Cade Banks, he's played a fair bit of Super Rugby. Like, one-on-one, these guys are lightning. So I was really excited to see us throw the ball around in tough conditions too. We certainly didn't go into our shells. I was very nervous at the end there. It's fair to say I muttered under my breath, watch us find a way to lose this game, when we lost that line out. Like, seriously, why forwards decide to run 5 slips and fake lifts and a line out when time's up on the clock? Just go up at the first jumper, get the ball and kick the thing out. But look, the forwards wanted to show that they had a bit of razzle-dazzle left in their arsenal too. Probably not the right time to do it. But I was stoked that Harbour did get the win. It's been a tough year for them. 99% of those guys have come from club footy within the region, so that's a real positive to take away. Clearly, recruitment needs to be a big focus, probably a bit of the coaching as well, and team environment needs to be focused on as well. But I do have to wonder if someone like a Patrick Pellegrini, who only played, the first 2 games of the season, if he had been there the whole year instead of with Tonga, how different the season could have been. I don't think we would have been a playoff team, but I don't think we would have been wooden spooners as well. So, yeah, we went down swinging. I was glad to see them get the win, and I was even more glad to see them celebrate like they'd won the competition. The boys had 48 hours on the Bears as if they'd gone the whole way. So well done to them.
Talk about Mad Mondays. They had mad Saturday, Sunday, Monday sort of thing. So, good on them. And as you say, they gain a wee bit of experience now with all of those young players having played a full season of NPC rugby. They'll be better for that next season. They do lose a whole heap of experience, so it would be interesting. Will they pick up a few players from outside the area to help bolster the things? Pellegrini, how much will he play next season? But yeah, there's a few positives there for North Harbour, and finishing on a win is always good. In terms of Southland, I guess it was a sort of a season that started off not quite well. They held the Shield for a time, didn't they, earlier this season?
Yep.
But have finished just off the bottom of the table. So for them, I guess it was just being able to sort of keep that consistent form throughout the season. And again, with these smaller unions, one or two injuries can play havoc with the team. So I'm sure we'll see a rejuvenated Stag side next season. In terms of the other matches, Auckland, Otago. Otago put 50 points on Auckland, not at Eden Park, but in Auckland. And they really are looking, the Ranfurly Shield holders are looking very, very good. And I think if we think back a season or two, Otago had a young team who were sort of struggling slightly. Now they look like they could go all the way.
Yeah, big time. Well done to them. Tough conditions, so to put 50 on Auckland isn't easy as well. And they're just such an exciting team to watch, aren't they? I think we've said all year they're almost our second team, just the brand of footy that they play. They play an exciting style. They've got a good mix there of youth, but experience too. And they are well and truly title contenders. It's not going to be easy to go down to Dunedin and beat them. I love seeing Auckland lose. I love seeing Auckland get 50 put on them. And Otago were just clinical, man. I now want them to win the comp from here, I reckon.
And they are a big, big chance of doing that as well. We'll get to the quarterfinals a wee bit later. Just have a look at another couple of games. Tasman Counties Manukau, well, they decided that we were going to play touch football defense. No, we're not going to have any of that. We're just going to throw the ball around and score as many tries as we can. 49-41 Counties Manukau over Tasman, which got Counties into the playoffs off the back of that win. Obviously, not a lot of defence there, Shirley.
No, not a lot of defence, but you do have to commend Counties. I think that's what all 5 wins on the trot in their last 5 games of the season. So they finished with a hiss and a roar. They beat Harbour, and then they kicked on from there to beat Southland, Auckland, Manawatu, and Tasman. You could argue the quality of opposition not as high, but still to go down to Tasman and knock them off at home is a great win. I love that that final minute too when the Counties player kicked it out and the Tasman guy gave him a bit of a shoulder and he flicked him the bird and there was a bit of push and shove there. That was good scenes. But Counties, when they get it right, they've got some attacking talent there. I thought their flanker was outstanding. We'll cover that off in the MVP ranks, but he was great. Etene Nanai Satoro back looking dangerous, Dalton Papali'i. So they're a confident team, and if you catch Counties in a mood, they can play some footy. They're big, they're physical, and they've got plenty of flair. So they're probably not someone you want to meet this week, I reckon.
No, you're right. That's been Counties rugby for as long as I can remember, back in the 1970s when the likes of Bruce Robertson was sort of kicking a ball around for Counties Manukau. They have always loved to give that ball a wee bit of air, and when they do it properly, boy, they are a very, very dangerous team. As you say, going down to Tasman and beating Tasman there, that's a huge, huge, huge accomplishment. So well done to Counties. They thoroughly deserve their spot in the playoffs, and it will be interesting to see how I know the bookies have them large underdogs this weekend, but if things click, this could be a wee bit closer than the bookies are thinking. Elsewhere, Canterbury, of course, who finished top of the table. Canterbury 34-14 winners over Taranaki. They just have been so clinical, Canterbury. This is, they've got like a factory or a machine down there, and one part drops out, put another part in there, and the machine just keeps humming.
Yeah, their forward pack has been so good this year, set piece wise, and then with ball in hand and defensively too. And I thought that's where they dominated this game. They didn't give that Taranaki backline a platform to play off at all. I thought the Canterbury pack just monstered them, and that Taranaki pack is a good pack too. So we mentioned Counties there going down to Canterbury. That's going to have to be a big target area for them to try and front with that Canterbury forward pack, because all year they have been dominant, and it's just typical Canterbury footy, isn't it? At times it's not exciting, but they get results, and when they turn it on like this, like 8 wins out of the 10-game season, and they've looked dominant in 6 or 7 of them. So They play finals footy year round, and they will be primed to try and finish this season off.
I think the most unluckiest team this season, probably Northland, the Taniwha. They were one of only 2 teams not to lose to Canterbury this season and just missed out on a playoff spot. So, yeah, in a season where the teams towards the top of the North Island finished 12th, 9th, and 8th. I thought they were very, very good, the Taniwha, and if they just had another result go their way, they'd probably be in the playoffs this weekend. So unfortunate for them. But let's have a look at. Why don't we go with our pick and go NPC MVP points for last weekend, the final round of the regular season. And Surly, where are you going with your points?
I went with the Counties 7 for my 5 points.
Adam Brash.
Yeah. 3 tries in the first 44 minutes. I thought he was great for Counties and a big road win to lock in their finals spot. Then for my 3, I went with another forward who scored a hat-trick, Zach Gallagher, the Canterbury 6. I thought he was busy around the park, and 3 tries to loose forwards. You've got to reward that. I actually had a loose forward clean sweep. My 1 point went to Donald Coleman from Harbour. Probably a bit of bias in that one. He was the number 8. He's been a standout in club rugby for the last 6 or 7 years. Finally got his opportunity to debut this year, got his first proper start on the weekend, and I thought he was huge for Harbour. So I gave Donald the 1 point there. So Brash, Gallagher, and Coleman.
But we're not too far away, to be fair. I went with Brash as well for my 5 points. As you say, 3 tries against Tasman, but his all-round work during the game was superb as well. He thoroughly deserves the 5 points. I then went with Zahn Sullivan, who had a big, big game for Hawke's Bay on the weekend. He looks like he's getting back to his bit. Looks like he hasn't had any niggly sort of injuries this season. I think it's showing in his just his consistency throughout the season. So happy for that. And then also the Canterbury Lucy Gallagher. Once again, if you score 3 tries and you're in the forward pack, well, that's good enough for me to give you a point. He thoroughly deserves that point. Probably could have got a few more as well. Right, let's look forward to the quarterfinals this weekend, Surly. Okay, first up, Otago hosting Waikato on Friday night. Otago $1.45, Waikato at $2.70. They're 6.5 point faves at home, Otago, and the game total is set at 57.5. Where are you going here?
I'm going with Otago. I think they're going to be too strong at home. I do have it on pretty good authority that Waikato might be boosted with a couple players, a couple All Blacks that haven't had many minutes, so that might shorten the odds up a little bit. But I do think Otago at home will be too strong, and I hope they win, to be honest, just because I think going out in a quarterfinal would be an unfair reflection of their season, whereas for Waikato, they've been quite up and down, haven't they? They've won these games that they should win, but when they've come up against quality sides, like Bay of Plenty 2 weeks ago, they've been well off the mark. So I hope Otago can get this one done. I want to see them go all the way, as I mentioned before, and I think Waikato will put up a fight, but I think the odds are about right.
Once again, yep, the final lineups will be crucial when it comes to sorting this game out. But just that I guess the momentum that Otago have built up over the season, they'll take a whole heap of confidence out of that big win in Auckland last weekend. As you say, in trying conditions, they'll be back home this time with a big crowd behind them. Even though Waikato might be getting 1 or 2 players back from All Black duty, the way that Otago squad has gone about their business this season, I think they might just be a wee bit too good. In a close one here, I don't think they'll run away with it, but because these playoff games can be very, very niggly affairs. But yeah, I've got Otago on top as well. Second playoff game or second quarter final on Saturday afternoon, Bay of Plenty hosting Tasman. The Bop, $1.62. Tasman, at $2.25. 3.5 point underdogs, Tasman. And the game total set at 54.5. Well, I'm guessing Tasman are going to play a wee bit more defense this weekend, Surly.
Are they going to be able to stop this Bay of Plenty attack, though? That's what 4 o'clock, Tauranga. This kind of screams for some points, doesn't it? And both of these teams have plenty of attacking flair. I think Bay of Plenty at home will be too good. I'm expecting it'll be a massive crowd that turns out for this one as well. Tasman will be stinging off the back of their performance last week, but I just think this Bay of Plenty 4-pack is going to be too good for the Tasman pack. Like Intel Moifalau and the outside backs, they have plenty of strike in that backline, Tasman, but losing Blackadder and guys like that has really hurt them up front. And I think that's where guys like Kurt Eklund, Naitoa Arkoi are just going to go to work and get the better of their Tasman counterparts. So if this one was in Nelson or in Tasman territory, then maybe I'd think it a little harder. But I think Bay of Plenty at $1.62 a pretty good buy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if the game was in Tasman, then Tasman would be slight favourites against Bay of Plenty right now, even though they do have those outs in their team. At Bay of Plenty, when you have players that have a significant amount of Super Rugby experience, especially in the forwards, that really, really does give your team a big advantage over the other side. So I do like the way that Bay of Plenty have once again, they've been playing Bay of Plenty football. They've got those speedy backs. They use them when they can. The forward set a solid platform every time. Look, Tasman are dangerous. I just think Bay of Plenty at home will just have a wee bit too much for the Marcos. Marco, we'll see on Saturday. But yeah, I think Bay of Plenty will be heading to the semi-finals. Third quarterfinal of the weekend. It's the other Bay, or it's the Bay. They've got that luxury of calling themselves that. Hawke's Bay, they're $1.70 against Taranaki at $2.10, which means that Hawke's Bay are 1.5 point favourites here, and the game total set at 56.5. This is the closest game, according to bookies, Surly.
Yeah, I agree. And in fact, I like the upset in this one. I think this is going to be a great game. Hawke's Bay, for me, have been one of the standout teams this year. I expected them to be in the mix because they always are, but I think they've been better than I expected them to be as well. And as you mentioned before, Zahn Sullivan, not just the health, but how happy he looks being back at home. You know, he's a Hawke's Bay lad. He's been playing up at Auckland. He got a release to head back down there this year, and I think it's brought the best out of him on and off the field. He seems so into it this season, and he's been massive for them. They've got a good pack as well, but I think Taranaki bet them 2 weeks ago by just grinding them down up front and then allowing Josh Jacob to do his thing. And I think this Taranaki pack would have been disappointed at how they got dominated last week against Canterbury too. So I expect them to name a full-strength team. Guys like Ratamatavuki Nepkins and that were on the bench last week. They'll roll out the big dogs this week for sure. This one's going to go down to the wire, but Taranaki 1-12 at $3.25 has certainly caught my attention. I know you're a Hawke's Bay fan, though, Paulie. You've been big on them this year. You backing them to win?
I'll take the Magpies. Thank you very much. You're right. A few weeks ago, Taranaki did beat Hawke's Bay. I think it was 38-24. That was in Taranaki mind. So, okay, home field switches for the quarterfinal. Hawke's Bay at home. The likes of Zahn Sullivan. McClutchy, I think, has been very, very good for the Magpies this season. I just love the way that they've been doing their work. They're a very, very tough team to unlock, I think. And it's the home field advantage that gets it for me over Taranaki. And as you say, Taranaki rested a few players, so they'll be a wee bit fresher coming into this one. I just think the Magpies at home are going to have a little bit more in the tank than the Taranaki team, even though they have rested. They did rest one or two players last weekend. So let's get to the final quarterfinal of the weekend. We head down south on Sunday afternoon to see Canterbury host Counties Manukau. $1.17 Canterbury. $4.80 in a quarterfinal. Counties Manukau, they're 13.5-point underdogs. Counties Manukau, and the game total, forget about defense, they're saying 62.5. Surly, what are you looking for here?
I don't think these two sides played each other this year, did they? So that'll be interesting to see. I would love to see counties make this a real contest, and they have the attacking talent and the flair to do so. But I just wonder if this Canterbury forward pack is just going to strangle them out of the contest and not really allow them to play that counties style of footy that they love to play. I think the 480 is too much. I think counties deserve more respect than that, but Canterbury have been so consistent this year. Counties have hit their straps over the last month, but still have a bit of that up and down style of play about them. So I just think they're going to get grinded out in this game, and Canterbury will be too good. But I don't expect it to be a cricket score like the odds suggest. I think counties will keep it reasonably close. And if they're allowed to play their style of footy, this could get really interesting. I just think up front, Canterbury will be too clinical. What do you reckon?
That's exactly where I'm going as well. Canterbury, the forward pack will dominate proceedings, and as the game progresses, they will get more and more on top of the counties 1-8. And I think in the end that will tell, and we'll see. I think it'll be a close game for the first 60 minutes, and I think over that final 20 minutes, the amount of defense and the amount of tackles that counties will have had to have done over that first 60 minutes will start to tell, and we'll see a few gaps opening. And I think Canterbury will be just a wee bit too. Well, no, I think they'll be more than just a wee bit too good. That there's a reason they finished top of the table. There's a reason why they only lost one game this season. It's because they have a very, very good system there. They've got a super squad that they've put together. Blackadder is he's a big loss. I don't know. I just can't. I've looked at this game and I just can't see how counties can get up over the top of Canterbury. So I think it's going to be a fairly comfortable win to Canterbury, although it may not seem like that over that first sort of 60 minutes. I think the counties Manukau will be able to keep it fairly close, but in the end, Canterbury will just have too many guns for them, and the pressure will tell over the final stages of the game. So, yeah, I'm going to take a sort of a close game at halftime, with then Canterbury running away with it. So, yeah, that's how I see it. Right, Surly, I guess we should have a look at doing some punting this week then. $100 up. You don't have to swing for the fences to be fair. You can play fairly straight here and get back into the positive in terms of the punting for the season. Where are you going to go?
Yeah, that's the goal. And to be fair, with just the two of us on here, I'm guaranteed a silver medal for this week's punting. So I'm happy with that. But my $50, I'm going to go Otago head-to-head, Canterbury head-to-head, and Taranaki plus 7.5 at $2.40. Now, I could change that to Bay of Plenty once I see the lineup, so stand by. But that's where I'm at the moment. Then my other $50, I am going to take a swing here on Taranaki 1-12 at $3.25. I think that is great odds for a game that is going to be incredibly close, and I think that's too much value to pass up, and that could really get me back into the positive. So that's where I'm going this week. I'm hedging my bets on Taranaki. I need them not to let me down here.
Okay, I'm going to have one bet, put the whole hundy on. I'm going to take Waikato plus 6.5 against Otago. I'm going to do that into Hawke's Bay to beat Taranaki at $1.70.
Oh, I love this.
And then I'm just going to go fairly safe. I'm going to go Canterbury to beat Counties Manukau at $1.17. So Waikato plus the 6.5, Hawke's Bay head-to-head against Taranaki at $1.70, and then Canterbury I know they're short head-to-head, $1.17, and that multi comes out to $3.77, the whole hundy on there, hopefully, to get things rolling again. Righty-ho, Surly, what are you up to this weekend?
This weekend, bit of a mellow one, I think. I'll be watching the NPC, that's for sure. But yeah, it feels like the last few weekends have been so intense with all the sport on that I'm looking forward to mainly just focusing in on the NPC. So yeah, bit of a quiet one. Weather's not meant to be great, so it might just be an inside weekend for me, mate. What about you?
I'm off this Friday. We've got a boys' golf trip heading up north. We've got a bus booked. There's 20 of us. We're playing Rangatira on Friday. Yeah, Friday. Playing a Rangatira Friday, which is, where is it? It's in the central North Island, and there's 6 holes on the first level. Then you drop down to the next level. There's 6 holes there. Then you drop down to the bottom level, and the Manawatu River, I think, flows along the outside of the course, and State Highway, whatever it is, flows on the other side. And then when you finish at 18, there's a cable car that takes you back up the side of the hill to the clubhouse. So it's a fantastic country course. We'll be playing there. And then Saturday, we're staying in Taupō. We're going to play Wairake on the Saturday for another trophy. So, and then I'll be watching a bit of footy as well.
It sounds like you'll be sinking tins not watching footy. You're in for a big one, mate.
Oh, hold on. We've got one more question. And this is off the back of something I saw in the news this morning. Portia Wycliffe Woodman has a Barbie doll.
Really?
Yes. She has a Barbie doll, and it's got the tattoo that she's got on her leg. It's on the Barbie doll as well.
That's massive.
So this is fantastic. So I thought, well, why don't we look at the All Blacks and think about someone who could be Ken, the Ken doll. So Shirley, have you been able to have a look and just think about which one of the All Blacks, or which, if you think there might be more than one, who would be best suited to be Ken?
I've just looked at this now. That is crazy. This is huge stuff, really. When you think about it, like LeBron James had his own one last year as well. But yeah, they've done it. They've picked out 4 women's players and made Barbie dolls off the back of it, which just shows the success of the Women's World Cup. So well done to Portia. She's a superstar for sure. Straight away, the player that comes to mind, and I reckon it would be the sickest looking Ken doll ever, is Ardie Savea.
100%, yes.
You can just imagine him all slagged out with his clothing, probably boom box. He's got the little mini afro hairstyle. You could even chuck the goggles on him as an accessory that you can take on or off, that he famously wore a few years ago. I think people would flock for an Ardie Savea Ken doll. He's the most obvious for sure. When you think historically, guys like Jonah and that would have done big numbers. Obviously, Dan Carter.
Didn't Jonah have a doll anyway?
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Even guys like Tana and that would have done big numbers. But I think current players, Ardie would have to be right up there.
100%, and I agree with you. The accessories that they would have for Ardie would be absolutely sensational. The headphones, listening to the music prior to the game, as you say, the shades that he had, that he wore for it was only a small period, to be fair. But there you go. There's another set of accessories they could sell, and of course, his doll would be unbreakable. Like, I'm guessing some of them you can snap the arms off and think, nah, his doll would just be like made out of titanium, and you just wouldn't be able to you couldn't bend him anyway unless it was like in a rugby action. I'm 100%.
Do you remember those dolls where you could wind up the back? They were like G.I. Joe dolls, and like their arms would spin or something. You could put a ball in his hand, wind him up, and he does that trademark dummy, that massive dummy he does where he just
like that.
Yeah, and that could be an added feature too, the old Ardie Savea dummy, which hasn't really worked on the field, but geez, it looks great when he does it.
Anyone else you can think of? Are you what about like a Will Jordan or a? I'm just trying to think. One of the backs.
Yeah, I think a Bodie would be popular around the
Yes.
world, right? Just because
Yep.
of his profile, for sure. He would be up there. These days, like a Roygaard, someone like that, puts bums on seats too. I'm trying to think overseas markets who would appeal, and I still think it's Artie. I think a Khaleesi Dole would do big numbers in South Africa and around the world too, just because of the type of guy he is off the field. And you could sell those two together because they're great mates. A DuPont Dole would do well. But yeah, those are probably the three names that really jump out.
We're doing all this work for Mattel. Surely we get a wee bit of the cut of the profits of this. Hey, they'll run with this.
Oh, surely. And I'd say they'd be lucrative too. It's a big company to tap into. So we're only asking for what? 10% combined? We'll go 5 each and
Give us a call. We can negotiate.
Hey, happy to. Look, if you give us more time, we'll come up with more ideas too. A Tavatava Nawai doll would be popular down south as well.
Fantastic. The Artie Severe Ken doll. Watch for it coming out next season from Mattel and us.
Yeah, I'd buy one. Yeah, Paulie, Surly, and Mattel. What a trio.
Fantastic. All righty. Surly, thanks for joining in once again. Hopefully we'll have some reinforcements join us next week. Maybe a couple of All Blacks coming off the bench to help out next weekend. Hopefully Pitty's back from overseas, and we'll get either Jeff or Steve in the studio as well. So that's it for this week. Thank you for tuning in and watching and or listening. And we'll be back again next week with another edition of the Pick and Go.